Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Thursday. I hope it finds you well out there. Another crazy day. We've got it all for you. We got talk about jobs. We'll talk about retail sales. We'll talk about rate cuts and so much more. And the year of chaos continues. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And Jason, we did. This was the day we were saying, hey, pretty quiet week outside of, we had a lot of earnings and such. But today was the day. We got retail sales. We got jobless claims. And, man, I'll just say the headlines would leave you to wonder what in the world is going on. Why would anybody be cutting rates? But then again, the devil is always in the details. One of the strangest reports that you know what, I've been doing this, like I said, over 20 years. Strangest report I've ever seen. Especially in regards to retail sales. But this is kind of how it's been, right? You're sitting there saying, we're dependent on the data. Then the data comes in. And then they're like, well, that data's wrong, right? It's no good. Don't worry about it. I'm going to tell you, I think we're going to nail all of this. Jason and I are in the camp. Inflation's not gone. It's not going away. Matter of fact, the rate cuts almost kind of guaranteeing that we're going to have inflation making a comeback. But let's look at the numbers. Let's start with jobless claims, because that one was it was. I don't want to use the word funny, but we were expecting a big number. It came in, and I'll say this, only 241,000. Now, they were expecting something in the neighborhood of 270,000. I guess what was interesting is Florida. Guess if you have a huge hurricane that comes in, 4 million people without power for at least some period of time. Apparently nobody was able to file for unemployment. I don't know. They actually contributed negatively to the number. I don't know how that works. We are expecting North Carolina to do that. They did because, recovering from their hurricane. And then Michigan, which Michigan's been getting hit by auto layoffs, which that's not weather related. Somehow they had a huge reduction to get to 241. Everyone's kind of now saying, well, now next week's data is going to be messed up. So we'll see. But the big thing, the continuing claims continued higher. But like I said, the only big thing that was weird was, usually when these places get hit with the hurricanes, they have a bunch of land. They come back. That's not, it's not lie about it. Like North Carolina, they'll come back. But it didn't happen this week. So I guess we'll have to wait for next week to see what happens. But the big lie came in retail sales. So late yesterday, Bank of America came out and said, retail sales are going to be huge. And everyone's like, what? What do you think? Because, by the way, they were thinking about 0.2, right? So, with inflation, that seems about right. Well, Bank of America last night said, hey, it could be up to 0.8. What did they know? Did they know something? Well, the number came out. The headline up 0.4. Now, remember, they were only expecting 2. Now, that's well below what Bank of America said, but they were the only ones that were this high. Autos up 0.5%. Again, this was only supposed to be 0.1. So this is the headline numbers tell you, oh, my gosh, You guys may have to raise rates, right? This is pretty hot. This is a hot number. How about this control group? What's in it? Who knows? But this is the part that they use for GDP. Up 0.7. It was expected to be 0.3. By the way, month over month was, those were all month over month. Year over year was only up 1.7. Now, that's the slowest growth year over year that we've seen. But here was the shocker. So the headline comes out. Gold was up. It drops like a rock. Silver drops like a rock. I'm thinking, man, 10-year note shooting up, right? I'm like, oh, my gosh, we're probably going to have gold down, I don't know, $20, $30, $40 on this. Can't cut rates on that. Oh, boy. But it only took about 15 minutes, and now gold is at a new all-time record high, right at, 26.95, right? The December gold, almost 27 and a quarter. How? I mean, jobless claims was better than expected. Now, granted, it was a little weird, a little janky. But retail sales, I mean, you go out to CNBC, big headline. Retail sales up 0.4. Unseasonally adjusted. Uh-oh. You mean, what was it like without the salt, the pepper, the ketchup, the mustard, the relish, the mayo? I'm going to let you know all about it. You won't believe it. That's coming up next. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Thursday. A quick look in at the markets. And it's tough. How do you make decisions with the nonsense of the data points we're getting? But right now, the Dow's up 90. The S&P's up 12. The NASDAQ's up 65. The 10-year note, here we go, 4.1 again. Right? Just crazy moves in the bond market. And again, though, lack of liquidity. Oil's up. By the way, we'll have an Israel update for you a little later. We got a new intel on that. But inventory draws. Gold flying up a 20 spot 16.95. December TV gold 27.12 and change. Silver flying back and forth. It's been as high as $32 again. Right now, 31.75 as the retail sales numbers. Like I said, shocking numbers on the headlines. And this is why you need to be more diversified than you've ever been before. Because unfortunately for all of us, the data that they give, it's not factual stuff. It's made up. They make it up. They call it seasonal adjustments. Why? Because we're too stupid? Besides, what would need to be seasonally adjusted, honestly, in September? Tell me. What? What? I could get it. You want to seasonally adjust Christmas? Okay, maybe. But we're smart enough to figure it out, don't you think? But no. Just like inflation. Right? Why don't they actually track inflation? Well, they don't want us to know what really is happening. When this bubble goes, because this is the cycle they want us to be on, I hope you paid attention. Gold is sending you a message. Have you not gotten it yet? Hello? Are you home? Can you figure it out? I think you can. Matter of fact, I think we're a lot smarter than they want to give us credit for. They want us to be dumbed down. They don't want this program. They hate my program. They hate it. Turn on the sports station, right? Yeah, listen to I don't know, some guy talk about Donald Trump or whatever. Do Britney Spears, keep up with do anything. MLB playoffs, do that. Football. Don't listen. Don't do something. Do it. Because we're on the clock. Talking about these yield curves, the uninversion. Wait till I tell you about the retail sales. You're already know something's up. But before that, check out our friends at Y Refi. Why? Because you can get 10.25% fixed rate of return. In 5 years, you're going to make over 50%. And guess what? Not correlated to Wall Street. You can sleep at night. Jason always says it was. Our customers are so relaxed because they got gold and silver. Be more relaxed. Be more diversified. You got those big IRAs. You got big IRAs, call us. Put some of that into gold and silver. Call Y Refi. Put some of it over there. Spread it out. Remember, Y Refi minimum of $50,000. Fixed rate of return. What does it mean? Doesn't change. Doesn't change. What if this and what if that and blah, 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 blah. Doesn't change. You could use it as income. You can compound it. Here's the best part. You could compound it for 2 or 3 years and then decide, I want to use it as income. You can turn it on. You get to control it. There's no fees. There's none of that. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. The word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them. 888-YREFI24. 888-973-3924. So, they said retail sales were up. Seasonally adjusted. Why then is gold at new all-time record highs? Well, if you took out the seasoning, retail fell 7.5% month over month. That's just an insanity number. Unadjusted retail sales fell 7.5% month over month. It was the largest seasonal adjustment in the history of seasonal adjustments that got you this headline number. So, Jason, essentially what we got from the numbers from the government today was, well, retail sales sucked, but we fixed it. We fixed it, and we put a pretty little bow on it. Now everybody can say, now we can have a big headline on the stock channel about how great retail sales were.
And this will be the last one before the election, so you got to have the good news in October. You have to have the good news in October if you're trying to win an election from the side that's in power. So yeah, I mean, yeah, if a Republican was in power right now, it'd probably be the worst numbers ever the month before, right, Joe? They would. This is why I don't trust these. So I don't trust the numbers.
Right.
I don't really care who's in charge. I just want a fair accounting of what's actually going on, and it's you can't believe what you see on TV.
How do you make heads or tails of it, right? How do you do anything with this kind of? How do you seasonally adjust away a 7.5% drop? I don't know. I don't get it. By the way, on an unadjusted basis, retail sales year over year, they're not up either. Just so you know. So when you think about it, unadjusted, retail sales are negative, month over month, big negative. Year over year, it's even worse because, they admit to 2.5% inflation. Which means if retail sales aren't up 2.5% year over year, they're actually falling. Well, guess what? They weren't up at all. So it's actually, you really look at it as retail sales are probably down 2.5%, 3%. But very, very interesting numbers coming out today. And it didn't take long for the markets to kind of, Jason, I guess, see through the charade that the numbers were today. But the one interesting thing, though, once again, if these are the numbers, how can you keep cutting rates? But guess what? I think they're going to say, just like they said, remember they told them, oh, don't believe the jobs numbers. Well, I guess now, don't believe any number, right? Don't worry. We're going to keep cutting. I think that's the message we're going to get. But we'll keep watching that 10-year note, right? That 10-year note, back to 4.1. And again, the amount of debt that needs to be sold, this is going to continue to be a problem, Jason.
Yeah, the Fed cutting rates doesn't mean that everything else has to go down. There are rates that operate independently of the Fed's rates if the markets are showing actual stress, right, Joe? So we could have another half-point reduction on the rates, and we still see mortgage rates stay the same or go higher. We can see that, and it's happened before. It just hasn't happened really in a long, long time, Joe.
Yeah, and again, I think we're going to see a lot of these record adjustments and whatnot. And again, this was the last report before the election. Yep. I don't know. Is this bias? Is this trying to put the lipstick on the pig? It feels that way. I don't know that it is.
Yeah.
But it certainly feels that way, doesn't it? Because why would we have the largest adjustment in history? That's the part that's baffling, right? That's the part where it feels like, is this politically motivated? I think that's frustrating for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll have to adjust it quite as much after the election, Joe. They can just let it go then. You got 4 years of whoever, right? So it won't matter as much. This may be the worst adjustment.
Right.
Yeah, they may not do it as much.
I think you're right on that, too, right? Now that the election is over, we don't have to fudge it so much anymore. We'll see. We'll watch. We did get crude inventory reports. Big drops in inventories across the board. 2 million barrels. Gasoline, one report said down 6 million. The other report said down 2 million. Distillates down 3 million. By the way, the biggest draw since March on distillates. So crude oil, we'll see here. Israel has come out and said that they are going to hit Iran before the election. That is now the new word. They haven't said whether or not they're going to hit the oil facilities. They're kind of leaving that up in the air, but they said that they have an opportunity, and I'm going to quote this here, to cut the head off of the snake. And it's going to be done before the election. And they kind of led people to believe that it's going to be done before the end of the month. So they're not going to let it get to November, that the strike against Iran will come before the election. But Jason kind of led everyone to believe probably before the end of this month.
It sounds about right, Joe, just for sure. So gold could end
one too. Is this politically motivated? Let's wait.
Yep.
Right? Let's wait, because we don't want crude oil prices to jump that fast. If we wait to say, I don't know, the 30th, something like that, hey, by the time the impacts are felt, the election will already be here, right, and people won't notice. And then after the election, who cares, right? At that point, okay, it's done. I don't know. But, again, it's very interesting what has taken so long. That's not usually how Israel operates. But, of course, the one thing they are saying, it's going to – I don't think this is going to be, hey, we're going to fire 3 or 4 missiles, blow up a couple of things and call it good. That does not appear like that is what Israel intends to do. This looks like it's going to be something much, much bigger. And it's going to be very interesting. The waiting is what's got me a little perplexed. But they did say before the election, but real close to it.
Yeah, October. What is it? We got 2.5 weeks till the election. So any kind of information that can be bombed or dropped is probably going to have to hit now because all of the early voting has started now.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? The closer and closer you get, right, the more and more of the votes keep piling in. So yeah, and again, I don't know. Just things to think about, right? The jobless claims number was super. And now, fairness to the jobless claims, it's been super weird for a while. Okay, so I'll maybe not put so much on that. The retail sales number, that was weird. Really weird. Right? Just kind of leaves you scratching your head. Like, I could understand a record season if something dramatic had happened, but it wasn't. Right? There was nothing really anywhere that said we needed a record seasonal adjustment. We didn't. And then the Israel thing, that's just, I've been wondering that. I keep thinking, okay, it's going to come. And then late yesterday, all of a sudden, here comes this report. Oh, yeah, well, we're going to do it, but we're going to wait until right before the election. All right. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Thursday. The only other economic data we did get U.S. manufacturing output. That plunged in September, contracted 0.4%. That was much worse than expected. Manufacturing output now down year over year. Industrial production also down 0.3%, down 6% year over year. And then, of course, we got the strike at Boeing, so that also, let's not kid ourselves, that has a big effect. And, boy, that is no end in sight there as Boeing is desperate to continue to try to raise money. They're trying to raise $35 billion, so we'll have to wait and see how that's going to play out. By the way, gold right now up $19, $26.94. $20 gold pieces are now at $2,875. If you buy 20 or more, $2,850. Premiums are starting to go up. Remember, I told you we only have probably a few more weeks here once the election is over. And then silver, which I got, as you know, all out buy on silver as we sit right now. Here's what we're going to do. Silver, remember yesterday I had them at $750. Silver was up like almost 50 cents. Right now it's come back down. I don't think it's going to stay there, but, some of these shorts are probably getting out of the way here. Here's what we're going to do. Silver below $31.75. Right now it's up 4 cents. It's at $31.70. I'll do them at $7.50 until silver is above, say, $31.90. And then at that point, I got to go up to the $7.75. So right now, I've got them on the website at $775 a roll. You got a limited time here. If silver gets back up, like I said, we're going to have to raise the price. But Jason, I want to get it in your hands as quickly as possible. Believe me, I know some of you guys, but we've heard this before. Listen, silver's had a great year. Silver's up almost $9 this year. That's huge. But it's not done. Unfortunately, I think silver's going to go up a whole lot more than $9 next year. Jump on this. Of the cheapest around, nobody is cheaper here. $750 a roll on silver eagles, 20 U.S. silver eagles. And then, of course, the $20 liberties. I mean, man, I'll just say this. Don't be surprised in a month. And forget about gold even going higher. Just say gold right around here, $2,700. You're going to be paying over $3,000. I promise you that's what is going to happen. So do it today and save yourself a boatload. And again, I think after listen, I already raised my gold forecast for next year. We've already hit the forecast for this year. And Jason, things don't go quite right. We could see $3,000 gold this year. I hope not, but I think a lot of that, we'll see what Israel does. That may be the biggest wild card of it all. And then let's not forget news that was breaking yesterday, and I've seen it now, multiple sources. North Korea has sent 10,000 troops to Russia, and word is they are now fighting with the Russians. Right now, they're still on Russian soil, so they're taking back I reported it yesterday. Russia's already taken half of the land back from that incursion from the Ukraine. But, Jason, it looks like North Korea is joining the war here. This thing is picking up steam.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. A lot about what America is going to do about that war has a lot to do with the election results. So we'll see what happens. But the silver at $750 a roll, 2.5 years ago to 3.5 years ago, Joe, you remember, we were at $800 a roll. This is not, even though silver's higher than it's been, we were at, and I think there was a couple of times we got above $800 a roll on silver eagles. And that's what premiums can do to the price. You're talking 20-something, $27, $28 silver back then when it was reaching its highs for those years. We were at $800. I think one time we were at $840 a roll for silver eagles for a short time.
Yeah. And silver was like in the low 20s at that point.
Yeah.
And we were looking at that number. And that's the difference of what premiums can do. Because you got to remember, I know we have the paper markets. They matter. They do. Only to an extent. This is a physical market. It's like gasoline, right? Unleaded gasoline on the paper markets, okay? Let me just pull it up here. Is $2.04. But when you go to put it in your car here in Arizona, it's $3.29. Colorado, I don't know where you guys at in Colorado, 2-something, because you guys are always cheaper than us, right? But way above the paper price because it's a physical market, right? The paper price, that's gasoline in the ground. The gold and silver price, that's silver and gold in the ground still. They got to mine it. They've got to put it into a concentrate, then they put it into bars, right? Then it gets shipped out. Everyone kind of understands that. Supply and demand rules the day. And why are premiums so low right now? And it happens every election cycle. Because people tend to do what? Well, I'm going to wait and see who wins, and then I'll decide. Right? If Trump wins, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to buy more gold because Trump's going to win. Or maybe, if Harris won, I'm going to buy more gold because Harris won. Right? Either way, the premiums very quickly go back to what I would call normal. Right now, premiums are below normal. That's a good thing. That allows you to buy for less. It allows you to buy super close to spot. And it won't last. And like I said, Jason's, what, we got a couple weeks. That's it. 800-951-0592. But, man, is North Korea. I wonder, does it change if they go into Ukraine or if they stay in Russia? Does that matter? Somehow I think it does. We'll see. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Another quick update here. So on the Silver Eagles, the Bullion Bank has informed me they're down to the last 3 cases of this low premium. So I'm going to throw a caveat out there. Already, it gets to $32. I got to raise the price. If we sell out of these 3 cases, I have to raise the price. It'll go to $7.75, which is still the cheapest around. But right now, rolls of Silver Eagles, $750. Buy a case of them, $18,750. I got to reach over and get my sheet here. Yeah, $19,700. That's $1,000 off right now. There's only 3 cases left. You can buy a roll. You can buy a case. You can buy the 3 cases. I don't care. 800-951-0592. And like I said, a really head-scratching day because it gave, I just have the feeling that there was some politics being played with the data today. There's politics being played with Israel and the striking of Iran, according to reports. Yesterday, they're waiting to just before the election. And then troops now, North Korean troops, are fighting with the Russians on the
alongside,
yeah, not with them, yes, with them together. Right now, from what I'm being told, they're in Russian territory. What happens when they're in Ukrainian territory? Does this make the war more intense? And again, I think this is where we're headed. I hate to say it, but Jason, this is what they do, right? We have a track record of this. When they make a big change in the global monetary system, it's usually done with a war.
Yeah, this is more mercenary than I think we've seen in modern times. I mean, mercenary armies are still used all the time. I mean, America really is a mercenary army, but to literally have a hired army coming into a confrontation is so we don't see directly like this very often in modern days, unless you're looking at smaller confrontations. But that's I've heard it. You never know what to believe exactly. The numbers of deaths on both sides and everything. I can believe the numbers, but then sometimes you're like, well, did that many people actually die? How much is actually getting blown up there? Is it worse than they're saying it is? But North Korean troops moving in to fight with Russians in Ukraine, that is definitely a new level. So it'll be interesting. I think Trump wins the election, and then this war comes to an end. That's what I think is going to happen. And the more intense it gets right before that happens, the more heroic it will look when that war is put to an end. And then we'll see what happens in Taiwan and especially the Middle East. Because if one war ends, you got to spend that money somewhere, right, Joe? You got to spend it somewhere. You can't end it unless you can still spend it. How's that?
It's going to be it's interesting. It's interesting because I think it's going to be the people that think Trump's going to win, and somehow this comes to an end. You know where I sit on this, and I'm terrible at the elections, right? In 2016, I'm like, oh, it's Hillary. It's no question. Of course, Trump won. I gave Biden, he didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. The guy, I'm like, God, he's a clown. Come on, there's no way. And Trump's going to win, and he won. So now I'm going to say Harris is winning, and my logic is I suck at it so bad that if I say she wins, then Trump will win. There you go. How about that? That's what I'm going for. But I don't believe he's going to be able to end this thing. I think it's good talk. The only way that I see the only way I see it ending is if we cut Ukraine off and stop supplying them with ammunitions. And I don't know that he'll do it. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see.
Well,
I will say
this.
this.
It'll be good to watch.
I will say this. If it is Harris and the North Koreans are fighting with the Russians, that makes me scared. And it just does. I think that would be extremely bad. Yep. And again, we'll see what happens.
You think, Joe? It makes me think that the Middle East calms down suddenly. Suddenly the Middle East calms down and Ukraine flares up if the Democrats win. There has to be this endless war, so it's going to be on one of these two spots. Maybe the fact that these wars seemingly feel like they're in a holding pattern is just because they're waiting to see which presidential candidate wins so that they can back their the men, the businesses, the corporations, the banks that actually put them in power. Because there is two different business situations between the Israeli Middle Eastern war and the Ukraine European war. There's two different business models there. So I don't. I'll say this: with Harris, it's possible you run both wars. I'll have to say this: with Harris, it's possible you run both. But I think with Harris, the Middle East calms down and Ukraine gets worse. With Trump, Ukraine, I think, actually goes away, Joe. I think Ukraine ends when Trump gets in, and then suddenly you see some bad stuff in the Middle East, and it can get really, really grueling down there. So as long as you're spending it, right? As long as they're spending it, that's the way. You can't end both these wars. That's just the world economic system. With the military-industrial complex of the United States, you can't end both wars unless they start a third war somewhere else, Joe.
Interesting. We're going to have to wait and see, I guess, and again, kind of a weird day today. I just got that feeling that no wonder what, what's so funny? I'm looking at the phone. Nobody's called because they're all thinking the same, right? Everyone's doing what we're doing. What is going to happen, right? I don't know. Doesn't matter. That's the silver price, the gold prices that we got today. It doesn't matter. Call 800-951-0592. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason wrapping up this Thursday. And, just a bizarre day, very interesting, for lack of a better term, economic data. The largest seasonal adjustment in history to get retail sales to be up 0.4%, unadjusted, down 7.5%. So it kind of gives you an idea of the magnitude of the adjustment. Then we Israel is saying, "Hey, we're going to do it. We're just going to wait till right before the election. That's when they're going to, I guess, do whatever they're going to do with Iran." Another kind of interesting. That's really not Israel's MO, right? They don't wait. Right? Usually you hit them within 48 hours, something's happening. This is kind of big. Now, Israel does say they're going for a knockout, and that's what they've been. Listen, they're doing it with Hamas. They're doing it with Hezbollah. I think this is going to be big. And now you've got North Korean troops in Russia fighting alongside the Russians with the Ukrainians. Jason, there's a lot going on. A lot going on.
There's a lot of geopolitical posturing for sure. There's definitely sides wanting a specific candidate that seems favorable to them in whatever conflict. So, I think there'll be a lot of we got 2.5 weeks of posturing, whether it be local, national, or geopolitically. We'll see how heated it gets. Sure, there is a lot of chest puffing right now, right? Lots of chest puffing. Nobody's quite throwing the hammer down just yet, but we'll see if one of these entities throw the hammer down before the election. If one of these, let's just say the Russians or the Israelis, if they feel like the guy they want to win isn't going to win, then you might see one of these things go big right before the election if they think they're going to lose.
Yeah, it's going to be. I guess we'll watch how it all plays out. It's we kind of were poking fun early this year. We called it the year of chaos. I didn't see this. I really didn't see all of this happening, and yet here we are, right? Here we are, and again, if this thing goes the way I think it's going to go, yeah, there's a lot more war coming, and there's inflation coming. Well, I think silver's going to the moon. Because you can't lob all these missiles without silver. Can't do it.
For all the fear that's running around the news cycle, Joe, I'll say this: I'm convinced that when this election's over, they're going to have the peaceful so-called transfer of power, and there's not going to be any craziness. Maybe you'll have a couple of cities have a little tiny riots or something, but. I think I think everyone's expecting some horrible thing to happen, and the controllers of this whole thing are going to show us a peaceful transfer of power because there's enough stuff geopolitically to start the emergency bin catching on fire. Joe,
could you imagine? Are you trying to say that we're going to know the winner on election night?
I think that's possible. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a more than a 50% chance. I'm not going to say for sure.
That it's not going to be some cliffhanger.
I think it's possible that we'll know the victor on the night, and then in January 2025, we'll have a nice little calm ceremony with whoever's hands on the Bible. But everything else, economically and geopolitically, would be burning at that point.
There you go. You decide. God bless you. Hey, listen, Jason and I, we're not done. We're coming right back when the half empty comes. Stay with us.